Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Thank you, Monsieur le Président. And if I may, as my honourable friend opposite did, begin with, before I do my remarks on Bill C-11, with this opportunity to recognize my father, as it is Father's Day coming up this weekend, and thank him for all his love, guidance, and support over the years. He is currently undergoing chemotherapy and is not feeling 100% himself. However, myself and my three brothers and my mother and all of our extended family know that he will be back to 110% soon, and just want to say we love you, Dad. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to rise today and speak about Bill C-11, and although I do believe that the Broadcasting Act needs to be renewed, I'm deeply concerned about Bill C-11 because it's simply a revival of the flawed and failed Bill C-10 from the previous Parliament in many ways. The government claims that Bill C-11 is being introduced to protect Canadian content creators. However, the bill fails as many such entrepreneurs are opposed to this legislation. Dad, who lives in the Upper Stony Creek portion of my constituency, Mr. Speaker, and Chad is a digital creator, and he's concerned about the threat that Bill C-11 poses to his livelihood. Chad isn't alone by any means, Mr. Speaker, as we have seen dozens of Canadian content creators testify at Heritage Committee of their deep concern with this bill. So Chad told me that Canadian content creators are thriving with open social media platforms. In fact, 90% of all viewer traffic on Canadian YouTube channels comes from international audiences. So let me put that another way. Canadian content creators export 90% of their product. So that's 90%, Mr. Speaker. Every Canadian knows that the world is a consumer of Canadian content, and our talented comedians, our talented musicians and other artists, content creators like Chad, who do a fantastic job of making sure that people from around the world get a glimpse of our great nation. So, Madam Speaker, why is this government failing Canadian content creators again? In the words of prominent YouTube artist J.J. McCullough, who testified before the Heritage Committee, quote, "I also worry that the dreams of the next generation of Canadian YouTubers will become less achievable once they're forced to navigate intimidating new regulatory hurdles that my generation did not," unquote. So, Madam Speaker, this is the same government that is already failing young Canadians in so many ways as they struggle to fill up their tank as they drive to work each week, as they are no longer able to achieve the dream of home ownership, as they struggle to keep up the costs of living because of generational high inflation rates. Now they introduce a bill that will place hurdles on the ability of young Canadians to succeed in one of the few sectors of the economy that has flourished during the last few years. So, Madam Speaker, instead they're putting big print media companies first. This bill, if really concerned about content creators, then why not put content creators first? And why are they so against it? Madam Speaker, I know that Professor Michael Geist was one of the speakers at one of the committee hearings, and he's the University of Ottawa's Canada Research Chair on Internet and E-commerce Law, and he expressed this concern, and I'll quote, "Canada punches above its weight when it comes to the creation of this content, which is worth billions in revenue globally. We are talking about enormous potential revenue loss here for Canadian content producers." Geist says that that would make platforms, including YouTube and TikTok, force feed Canadian content that people might not usually choose to watch, rather than curated content matched to their preferences. And if people do not select Canadian content this bill offers, or if they indicate that they do not like or choose another video instead, it could lead to Canadian content that wasn't chosen, disliked, or not watched to the end, automatically being downgraded around the world. So why, again, is the government placing power, or why with this bill are we placing power in the hands of the government to make these decisions? And of course, I might add that this is a government that can't manage the passport system, as we've seen with the ridiculously long lines at Service Canada offices across the country. And so, why would we trust them to do the same, trust the same government to regulate content creation? which is a space that, by its definition, needs to be nimble and flexible and dynamic. Madam Speaker, the concerns over Bill C-11 are not limited to its detrimental effects on the livelihood of Canadian content creators, but extend to the right of free speech, which is a core identity of Canadians. And Madam Speaker, if the last few years have taught us anything, its open social media platforms are vital and crucial for us as we maintain our social connections. Podcasts, the simple joys of sharing videos of puppies and kittens and such with friends could be heavily regulated and restricted if this legislation goes through. These are examples of social media content that have seen great success without government regulation that would be controlled by the CRTC, a bureaucracy which would needlessly clamp down on social media platforms. So, Madam Speaker, the government is failing Canadians in this sense. They're introducing legislation that will reduce choices in content that have given them relief over the course of the past number of years. And what also gives myself and constituents concern is the threat to the ability of Canadians to freely express themselves without government interference. As poet Maya Angelou once said, "Watch people's feet, not their lips." The Liberal talking point is that we want free speech and don't want to curtail it. This happens to be the very process to discuss Bill C is a sham. We're seeing the Liberals stopping and silencing debate, not just in committee, but also in this chamber. In fact, and this is ironic because the Minister of Canadian Heritage was recently reported in the Globe Mail saying that the Senate's not going to look at this before summer, and recently the chair of the CRTC, Ian Scott, estimated it could take 2 years to implement C-11. So what's the rush, and why is there a curtailing of debate on this bill in this House? So indeed, Canadians need to stop watching the Liberals' lips and start watching their feet. Madam Speaker, the impact that this has on freedom of speech is a serious concern for many people in Flamborough-Glanbrook who have sent hundreds of emails and had dozens and dozens of calls to my office, and I have to say that the overwhelming majority are opposed to C-11. As an example, Christina and Albert from Mount Hope emailed my office to express their concerns about the vagueness of the legislation and how that would allow for almost unhindered regulation of the internet by the CRTC, and in turn would influence what social media posts Canadians could see. And Christina and Albert were also concerned about the possibility that those views that may differ from the government might be more readily clamped down on social media because the CRTC has regulatory control over the internet. And similar concerns from Harry in Linden, in my constituency, as well as Erie and Mount Hope. And so their overall concern is the limiting of the content that they might watch or the content that they might create and post. So, Madam Speaker, I share the concerns of my constituents. We're proud as Canadians that Canada is seen internationally as a beacon of democracy. But this legislation and the limitations it would have on free speech are betrayal of those freedoms that we certainly cherish and promote worldwide. And so I know my time is winding down, and so let me conclude, Madam Speaker. For these reasons, Canadians are rightly concerned about this bill, about its contents, certainly about the process by which it's being pushed through this chamber. And this is why I stand with the people who have contacted my office, who have taken the time to call or write, with the people of Flamborough-Glanbrook and my Conservative colleagues, and urge everyone to vote against C-11.